Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This is a special episode in our Young Leader series because today I'm turning the mic over to a young leader to lead a conversation with another one of her peers. My co-host today here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast is Miss Kiley Pagel. Welcome, Kiley.
Hi, Peggy. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to co-host the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders podcast with you today.
And Kiley, so you were actually the very first guest I had on this Young Leader series last year, back in 2023. I knew when we sat down together that there was a gift that you had for having these type of conversations. And one of my goals in the work that I do is to be a mentor and a teacher. And I want to give you an opportunity to be in the seat that I'm in and connect with others like you, young leaders in the industry, and bring out some of their stories so that your peers can hear them, but also so that others in the industry can gain a better understanding for what our next generation of leaders, what they're living through, what they're looking for, what they're learning from, and how they can best be positioned for the future of the industry. Kiley, I had asked you to recommend a guest today. Tell us a little bit about who we'll be hearing from in this episode.
Today we'll be hearing from Emily McGowty from 2020 Consulting, located in upstate central New York. Emily is a young leader that came from a very rural community where dairy wasn't in her background and it wasn't just in her backyard. So going into a complete dairy aspect of a business and a company, working with primarily dairy farms and other sorts of dairy businesses, she had to build the trust from scratch, whether that was walking in and navigating how things were going to work out each day. She had to build that trust to be able to work with and serve the clients and customers that she has each day. In this podcast today, you will hear how she learned to navigate building that trust from scratch.
Kiley, as you mentioned, Emily, who did not come from dairy, but she has learned how to pivot into the industry and build trust around an area that can be really hard for some people. And that's the area of finance and bookkeeping. We're excited to get into the story today, but give us a little background. You know Emily from a step in your own career path. What was that step? How did you meet Emily?
We met in 2001 when we both took on an internship with 2020 Consulting. We were roomed together in a house, and our boss said, "You're either going to be friends or not get along at all." We have become the best of friends and allies within the dairy industry. We were able to grow with our similarities and our differences because Emily was coming in, and this was one of her first jobs working completely with dairy. And I was working with different clients that were all equine, and that is where Emily's background lied at the time, was with equine, and mine was with dairy. So we were able to team up and help each other throughout that way. Emily has stayed with the company, but we have kept in communication all these years later.
So this is like a little reunion that our listeners are going to get a snapshot of today. Kiley, just also give an update. What's your role these days?
My role is the marketing advisor at my family's company, Pagel Family Businesses. I'm primarily working at Pagel's Ponderosa Dairy. I also work on a few of the other facilities as an office support and HR representative. I've taken a complete turn as well from where I thought I was going to be 3 years ago starting my internship.
And that's what makes us fun to tell these stories and what others can learn from too. And so for any of our listeners that didn't check it out, head back to last year on the Uplevel Dairy podcast. You can hear more about Kiley's story of pursuing a career in accounting to the role she's in today at Pagel Family Businesses. We'll hear from Kiley and Emily as they have a conversation about what Emily has been learning along the way on her path, starting from scratch, building trust in the dairy business. This episode is sponsored by Quality Branding Solutions. Quality is a comprehensive branding solutions partner that empowers businesses, schools, and organizations in the dairy industry and beyond through impactful brand products, designs, and imprints. Find out how Sue and the team at Quality Branding Solutions can help turn your dairy business into a recognized brand at qualityinc.com or click the link in our show notes.
Good morning, Emily, and welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Young Leaders podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your education.
I grew up in Rotterdam, New York, which is in the eastern part of the state. There was not much ag in Rotterdam. I started in high school. I volunteered at a therapeutic riding barn and I wanted to get into the equine industry. From there, I went to SUNY Morrisville and got my associate's degree in equine science and management. I quickly realized that I didn't really have an exact plan as to what I wanted to do after college with horses. I figured that I would expand my knowledge and I switched into the agricultural business development for my bachelor's degree. And then from there, I was an intern and here I am. They haven't been able to get rid of me yet.
Tell us a little bit more about 2020 Consulting and what role you play.
We offer a suite of financial consulting services. We cover anything from bookkeeping to deep dive financial consulting. I primarily am focused in the on-site bookkeeping and record keeping. I am our accounting department manager. That's like my official title. I spend most of my time on the road. I'm at clients face to face, sitting down in the office and talking. How can we make things better? How can we speed up some data collection? How can we make better decisions is a big part of what I'm doing because you can't make decisions off things you don't know.
You talk about that you started out in the equine world. So, what drove that change that you were going to shift from completely equine and now you are completely in the dairy industry? What caused that change to happen?
So I don't like to say I'm totally out of the equine industry. I do work with some pretty cool equine clients all throughout the country. And I guess it's just more or less the people that I work with. During my internship, I got to work with a lot of these dairy families, and they all took me in as family. That's just been a very special industry to be a part of. There's just so much that goes on to get a gallon of milk to your door. There's just so much decision making and so many parties involved in just making milk on a daily basis. I mean, I'm on a couple of profit teams where I sit in at clients and I'm sitting down and I'm working with their vet and their nutritionist, the owner, whoever else in the industry that they invite to make these decisions with them. And it's just really cool.
Could you give us some insight as to what a semi general day looks like in the life of Miss Emily at 2020 Consulting?
I do like to sit down and chat with the owners, what's going on? What are some current concerns? How can I help? Because a lot of people in the farming industry have a hard time giving stuff up. So if you don't make it easy for them to hand stuff off to you and figure out the best way to overcome that, you're not really going to be successful in my role.
What are some skills you've had to adapt to make the success possible on both sides?
You definitely need to be flexible. You're thinking on your feet and you just need to be able to accomplish all the things that these people are trusting you to do because you've worked so hard to build this trust with your client that they can let you look at the numbers in their checkbook, which is a big deal. So how can I make sure to not let them down? That's a big thing.
Yeah, trust is definitely a huge thing, and I feel like in the world of dairy, trust is a big thing that falls into success.
And to build that trust, you definitely have to have some people skills, which my boss Anna always says, numbers are easy, people are hard. And that's so true. I mean, it's so hard to read people and still be able to work with them.
Have there been any challenges in your career so far? And if so, what is the biggest challenge you've encountered so far?
With every new client, I walk into the door and get your initial interview where they're like, "All right, where's your family's dairy?" And then I have to tell them that, "Oh, I'm not from a dairy. I don't have any dairy background before where I am now." And then they're like, "Oh, great. You're an equine student." So, it's just more or less being a young woman who never had any dairy experience before now, and It's just something that some people need to get over and accept you into the world.
Emily, can you provide a little bit more detail on the building trust aspect within your role? You talked about how you did not come from a dairy background and you really are coming into people's homes and you are right up in their daily life, looking at things they don't openly share with everybody that walks through that door. What about you makes that different?
It's definitely a hard topic and a hard skill to learn. You're meeting these people and they're saying, Emily from 2020 Consulting is going to be here, and we have to hope that she knows what she's doing and we can trust her with what she's supposed to be doing. I think a key factor in building that trust is when you walk into the room, you're not any better than anybody else in that room. You have to be humble in your role. They're just meeting you for the first time. They don't even know who I am, where I'm from, all of that. Every single time it's like a new interview, pretty much. What family farm are you from? Where are you living? That kind of stuff. It's really important to establish that personable baseline. They know where I grew up and they know I am confident in what I'm doing, but I'm humble. I'm going to come into the room and I'm going to do the best I can to help them succeed in their business. I'm not going to sit down and ridicule them for not doing things the way that I would do them. And that's just really important to establish that trust. That's going to allow you to grow. From the first time you sit down with them to 6 months later, you've had enough conversations where they're like, oh, well, how's your dog doing? And, from there, you can really grow your relationship and your role within that business.
Even though it has been a big challenge in your career, there are still a lot of people out there that are very welcoming to you, even though you don't have that background, and they're willing to help you pave the way in your career. What has helped you overcome that challenge so far?
So honestly, you just take every opportunity and every chance that you get, and you need to be able to roll with the punches and figure out how to make everything work. Take every opportunity to go to every conference and every workshop that you can gain more knowledge, because whatever you know is what you can bring to the table, and that's what's important.
If you could take a look back and give advice to 20-year-old Emily, what would it be and what would you tell her?
So when I was 20 years old, I was in this headspace that I needed to get out of college right then and there, and that I needed to get out in the real world and be successful. I just wish I could tell myself to slow down and enjoy the time that you are allowed to be in college and allowed to be young, and take the time to absorb everything around you. I was in such a rush to get through college that I was maxing out how many credits I could take in a semester and not really exploring all the options of different classes that I could take to broaden my knowledge. I'm really glad I switched into the ag business program. I think that allowed for a bigger opportunity of things that I could do.
You have many talents that you could take to other industries. Who or what has inspired you to stay in and choose the dairy industry every day?
Honestly, it has to be the people I work with. Every day I get to work with a different family-run business. Those people care about me as a person. They're kind of like family, most of them. We sit down and talk about our days and all of our big plans for the weekends. They genuinely care about what's going on, not only in my life, but in my coworkers' lives and my boss's life. That everyone's so curious as to how well everyone's doing. And these are the same people that get to hand out their farm t-shirt, which is a silly thing, but it kind of is a big deal. They want you to represent their brand. They trust you enough to walk around the streets of whatever town you live in, and you have whatever farm logo on your shirt. And it's just a really special thing.
With all these skills and everything that you're doing, are there any resources that you have found over time that have been helpful to your role?
I definitely like to attend conferences because in my role of being on the road all the time, I only get like 10, 15 minutes with some owners to check in. That's kind of a lonely day to day, but I do like to attend like any conference, any industry event that I can. just so that I can meet more people and connect with some other professionals within the industry events. A big one that I do like to go to every year is the NEDPA conference, which is the Northeast Dairy Producers Association. That's a good one that we put on in New York State. I think it's February time every year. I do like to go to that one.
You had mentioned that growing up in Rotterdam, you weren't really going into anything having a background in agriculture. And like obviously now you are extremely deep into the world of agriculture in your role. What kind of mentorship do you wish you had, or were you able to find along the way?
I've loved all of the mentors I've had throughout my career so far. All of my coworkers and my boss have been some of the best people to work alongside. They really encourage me to be my best self, and just about anybody I've encountered in the ag world has been great to work alongside. I do wish I had a little bit more experience in the production of agriculture. I didn't grow up on that dairy farm. My neighbors didn't milk cows. I didn't really have anything to come off of that from.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the working relationship with your boss and coworkers? You've mentioned them a few times, and it seems there's a great dynamic in the 2020 consulting realm. How many coworkers are you with, and what's kind of the dynamic there? Because you're not all in an office together, you're running kind of all over everywhere all the time. So, are there struggles with that dynamic in keeping everyone on the same page? What's the broad picture on that?
I believe there's 7 of us strewn about the state, and we've definitely overcome a lot of those dysfunctional problems from not being in that office setting. We are a newer company, and everyone has those growing pains of finding things that work for everybody involved. I think we've established a lot of processes to help streamline all of that. Everyone knows their job and what they have to do. It's really special what we do because we have all these on-site people, and it's their job to collect all the data and make sure it's perfect, because you can't make a knowledgeable decision based on records that aren't clean and correct. And then from there, we take that information and we give it to Ashley, who then puts everything into an analysis, and she reviews as to why things are doing the things that they're doing. And both Ashley and Anna will sit down with a client and they'll say, hey, your labor cost is really high. What can we do to help make your labor force more efficient? Is there a capital project that needs to be done that could help speed up parlor time? Is there something that can be done to help feed a little bit faster? It's really special to sit down and deep dive into all those things.
So, from the sounds of it, it's not only you yourself working on some sites, it is definitely a team effort. But as you said, you guys are sporadic across the entire state of New York. How does the communication side of thing kind of work? How do you keep everything flowing and moving as it needs to be?
Yeah, so we have weekly meetings, and separately we all meet throughout the week as well to ensure we are not missing anything. We talk about any upcoming opportunities with clients and how we could prepare to make sure that we can get those things out in a reasonable time. And you just really need to have serious communication skills to help streamline this whole process, because otherwise, if something's going to sit in someone's inbox on their email and not be dealt with, then they're causing a bottleneck in the whole system of it all. So we often have many conversations as to like how we can be the best to provide the best information and the best product for our clients. That's our main role. My boss, Anna, she does a lot of estate planning and asset transfer planning. She does a fantastic job. She works with a lot of people to overcome the hard things to talk about. And we also work with Erica Lubner.
She's a family therapist, isn't she, in a way?
Not like a licensed therapist, though. So we also work with Erica. She's a business consultant as well. She specializes in overcoming those hard family conflicts, and she does a fantastic job at meeting with all of these families, and if there's anything that needs to be talked about. She's the girl to help facilitate those conversations and work with them to overcome them. So we primarily work with clients in New York State. However, we do have clients in 15 of the 50 states. We're pretty adaptable as far as working remotely. We have a few clients that are in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Vermont that we do make it a point to get there at least once a month because they are close, but not close enough for a weekly on-site visit. But we'll work with whoever needs our help or wants our help, and we'll make a cohesive plan to accomplish that.
So that really puts a whole new twist on how much you are traveling. To put it into a broader perspective, it's not just across the state of New York, but to many of the surrounding states and potentially even further on. But Emily, if there is nothing else that you would like to add, we thank you for joining us today and wish you luck in everything that you do. You are doing a lot of big things, and you are going to take the accounting world to all new places.
Well, thank you for having me.
This episode is sponsored by Quality Branding Solutions. Quality is a comprehensive branding solutions partner that empowers businesses, schools, and organizations in the dairy industry and beyond through impactful brand products, designs, and imprints. Find out how Sue and the team at Quality Branding Solutions can help turn your dairy business into a recognized brand at qualityinc.com or click the link in our show notes.